Hey guys, welcome back. I'm Macon Campbell and this is maconSTUFF. So firstly, before we get into this video, I would just like to apologize. It has been almost 3 months since I did any work to this organ. Suffice it to say, my life, as I'm sure many of you can relate, has been pretty upside down lately. In the middle of January, my father-in-law was diagnosed with terminal lung cancer, and less than 2 months later, he unfortunately passed away, exactly a week before the official lockdown started in my country. Since then, my wife, 4 kids and myself have been holed up at home, and I haven't been able to spend a whole lot of time in the workshop. I am, however, now trying to make some time for the shop so that I can get this organ finished once and for all, as I have a whole ton of ideas for things that I want to be building in the future. A lot of the footage shot for this part was filmed 3 months ago, and the rest is being shot now, so I don't know if it's going to seem as if the timeline is jumping around a bit in this video. If it does, I apologize. But with that being said, let's jump into this video. Here is me from 3 months ago. So it's been 2 weeks since I took the organ in to get blasted, and I finally got all the parts back yesterday afternoon. So we are one more step closer to getting this thing done. So Gerald, who did the blasting for me, recommended that I use vinegar and steel wool just to clean the surface and neutralize the soda that was used to blast it, as there is still a bit of residue left over on the surface. This will also help to raise the grain as well, after which I'll do a light sanding, and once that's done I can get to finishing. So I'm very much ready to get this thing done, so let's jump right in. I'm going to pack out all the smaller parts on the table here and go through them one by one, and once that's done I'll tackle the case. So let's do it. Okay, so it seems as if this organ isn't about to cut me a break just yet. This whole cleaning with vinegar isn't quite working out as I expected or hoped. As you may have noticed in the footage while I was cleaning some of the pieces, as I put them off to the side, they looked fairly nice, but as they started drying, they started taking on this strange dark grey color. I have a piece over here. Now, according to the advice that was given to me, cleaning it with vinegar was supposed to neutralize the bicarbonate of soda used to blast it, as well as clean it off, leaving a nice wood finish, which is pretty much the opposite of what happened. Now, it seems the only way that I can get this off is by sanding, and I'm having quite a bit of difficulty getting it off. As you can see, if you look a little bit closer, the soda blasting on some of these pieces did cause a bit of damage. It did take away the softer material in the wood, leaving some of the parts of the grain quite a lot lower than the rest. And that is making it exceedingly difficult to get it sanded down to where everything is a clean wood finish. Now thankfully I've only got these two pieces that have got this much damage, because these two pieces were the ones that had the dark oak stain on them, so they had to do quite a lot more blasting on these to get the stain removed. I'm going to try and clean these up as well as I can, which means I'm going to have to sand every single little nook and cranny on these pieces. All of the pieces, in fact, that I cleaned with vinegar. Once I've done that, I'm no longer going to do any more cleaning with vinegar. I'm just going to go straight to sanding. So basically what I'm saying is I'm going to be doing a lot of sanding, probably for the rest of my life. So before I lose my will to live, let me just jump into some sanding and get this done as quick as possible. Okay, so I quickly slapped together this little thing. It's just a dowel along with a Dremel tool screw shaft. I cut a couple of strips of 80 grit sandpaper and I've epoxied them in there. The hope is that they're going to make it a little bit easier to sand some of these features. So let's see if it works. Okay, well, the concept seemed to work. It was a little bit aggressive, and obviously my sandpaper wasn't strong enough, especially at such a high velocity. I tried it in my cordless drill first, but it wasn't rotating fast enough to remove any material. So the Dremel tool has got a much higher RPM, and it seemed to do the job quite well. But if this is as far as I'm going to get with one of these, I'm definitely not going to make a whole lot more. So back to hand sanding. Okay, so before anyone has anything to say about it, I have decided to switch over to a simple brush, and I'm finding that that is a much easier way of applying the finish. It may not be as elegant as this, but at this point I'm not really worried about that. The finish that I'm getting with the brush does still look fairly consistent, and I'm still going to have to sand everything down with steel wool or Scotch-Brite before I add the second coat, and the same again just before I add the last and third coat. So let's get on with it. Okay guys, so I think I've shown just about as much sanding and finishing as one person can take. So I'm going to cut this video short here. The rest of this finishing process is pretty much going to be a rinse and repeat, the same process that you've just seen. As I said, I'm going to sand down all the pieces with either steel wool or Scotch-Brite, whichever gives me the best result. The jury is still out, I haven't tested them yet. As some of you may have noticed, the finish that I'm using is a matte finish. So after this first coat has dried, it does look a little bit dull. So I'm still a little bit on the fence about what I'm going to do about that. Once I've sanded everything down and put on the second coat, I'll see what it looks like. If I'm not happy with what it looks like when I sand it down again and put on the third coat, I might go for a more glossy finish. But I've never been much of a gloss kind of person. I've always much more preferred matte colors and matte finishes. But as I said, I'll see what this looks like after the second coat and I'll make my decision then. So in an effort to save time and not boring you guys to death, I'm going to do the rest of the finishing process off camera, and I'll show you some footage of what all the parts look like completely finished at the beginning of the next video. So with all that said, let me get back to the office and get done editing this video and upload it so that I can get back to the workshop and get this whole finish business completed. As always, if you enjoyed this video, give me a thumbs up. If you'd like to see more, go ahead and subscribe, and until next time, keep making stuff.